Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Dignitaries, I love saying this, dignitaries on and off the dais. Every one of you matter to us, and Steve rightly said, you're the guys who really mean business, because at the end of a long day when you've heard so many speakers, it's not easy to sit through yet another one. Let's see if I can make this as interesting as I can. India is home to nearly 440 million students, school-going children, out of which 1/3 live in abject poverty. Everybody knows the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. This is the flagship program of the government for universalization of education, elementary education. They're choosing or chasing a big number, like 200 million, put them to schooling. Let's not get lost in the numbers. But let me give you a perspective. Of all the children that go to school, 94% of schools are government schools. So 94% of that tall number that I told you are municipal children. 6% are schools that you and me represent. And even less than that are international schools. In India, international schools have earned a reputation of being elitist. Only those who can afford it, and really afford it, okay? Some of the schooling is really mind-boggling in terms of fees. But you know what? International education, elitist concept, is only new to India. It's not like that the rest of the world. Who says you have to have a big pocket of money, big bucket sitting somewhere to educate internationally or the concepts of internationalism to your children? But we have a whole bunch of excuses for that. Let me tell you why. Everybody knows PISA, right? PISA put Finland education on the world map in the year 2000. So PISA is basically a skill testing, concept-driven test that lakhs of children age 15 take for reading, math, and science. In the year 2000, Finland topped all the three. Not just the topped all the three, in 2006, because they have the test every 4 years, they repeated that, topped all the three again. And that's when the whole world woke up to, oh my God, what's happening in Finland? And you know how America is, kind of researches everything. They tore Finland education apart. I mean, there is research work, there's CD work, there's all over the place. They splashed Finland. And we in India said, you know what? Finland doesn't have our challenges. It doesn't have the huge population that we have. It doesn't lack infrastructure like we do. Until you know what happened? In 2009, Shanghai tapped everything. What does China have that India doesn't have? It has more population than we have. It has the same pockets of poverty that we have. If Shanghai can do it, why can't we? Why do we live with the excuse that international education is for the rich and affording class? I'm going to leave that thought right there with you, because, and let me go on to the next one. It should work when I say page down. Okay, my bad. Mahatma Gandhi said, if you want to teach real peace and teach against real war, begin with children. Actually, everything begins with children. Everything begins with education. I cannot overemphasize that point. Any country that wants to go to the second level, be it financially, economically, politically, any which way, has to focus on primary education. And Ryan's already said that. You know what? There's no rocket science. So a lot of our speakers are going to be saying similar stuff. So at the cost of repetition, he said exactly the same thing. Are we teaching or facilitating learning? But the good thing is some of us have begun to think alike. Some of us are feeling the real challenge of education and moving in the same direction. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, but it's the same direction. So it's going to have an impact. Let me take you to, historically, how do we handle education? There are theories of education, right? So the behavioral theory pretty much is about aping behavior. It's about the math, science drill that you do in your classrooms. The cognitive theory, as you know, is group behavior. The constructivism theory is something that IB does very well, International Baccalaureate. It basically constructs learning from the past. You build on your past learning. But you know what? In 2004, Siemens started to challenge everything and say that all of these theories fall short when you look at learning in the digital age, in the knowledge era, which is so diverse, which is so informal, which is so, it breaks down every barrier. There's no geography in there. And then the theory of connectivism was offered to the education world. It's basically, in a single sentence, learning in the digital age. So this is where our children live. And again, Ryan has already brought that out. This is exactly where our children live. When we were growing up, we didn't live here. We lived in the physical space. Our kids live in the cyber world. And let me quickly run you some interesting slides. If some of you have seen it, I apologize for that. I'm going to tell you, or I'm trying to build a case about why e-learning is so critical in the digital age. Let's look at how learning has evolved. Listening to music in previous times used to be on the left side of the slide. Right now, in front of a screen. Watching a film, front of the screen. In olden days, you wanted to chat, you had this rotary dial, black color phone that you would call, that you wouldn't connect, etc. Right now, front of the screen. Reading newspaper, watching football matches, catching up with the Man U news, front of the screen. You want to play football, front of the screen. Right? You have all of these sensor motion games these days. You can do your yoga, you can do your cookery classes, you can play golf, you can play tennis, everything front of the screen. Punishment. Punishment used to be go sit in the corner in your room. Today, a lot of fun. So many gadgets in the room, right? Punishment has also changed, front of the screen. Earlier, on a lighter note, all of this you can take, but you know, value systems have changed. Look at this slide that says, if a child asked a parent, who made the world? Typically, a parent would have talked about God. Today, he says, go look it up on Google. In the olden days, schools looked like this. Today, it's all multimedia. And rightfully, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I'm building a case for connectivism. I'm building a case for e-learning. Because when we say that international schools are doing a whole bunch of right stuff in terms of pedagogical approaches, I don't know if you're completely present to the fact of how important connectivism is in the real-time children learning. I'm going to end with this slide. I have a whole bunch more, but I promised Steve that I'm going to keep time. I'm going to end with this slide. I'm going to leave this because every grade, you know, the first is K3, and then 4 to 6, and 7 and 8, and 9 and 12, and higher ed. Everywhere there are teaching learning platforms internationally that I urge every teacher to be part of. We do not live in India. We live in a global world. We do not compete in India. We compete for PISA. Just one last anecdote. When I read about PISA results for India, we don't figure, and if we do, it's like the bottom 3, okay? I was like, so let me tell you which kids they tested for India. Some government school in Tamil Nadu, they tested in India. And naturally, the results were like bottom 3. And I was like, why did they do that? Why didn't they test our kids, like yours and my school kind of kids? Then we would have shown Indian performance. But you know what? When I thought through it, it's right and proper. Worldwide, whether China or Finland or America or South Korea, which are like toppers, all the municipal children, all the government children, everybody is being tested. Then why not India? It's not about privileged schools. It's not about private education. It's about that 94% that is going to government schools. That, unless that improves, Indian education will not improve. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having me here.